And we're live. Welcome, my friends and gems, to Love and Money Secrets TV. And I am Dame Lillian Walker, your host and stem cell activation specialist. And before we get started, I want to ask you guys, have you ever found yourself in the terrible, shocking predicament where all of a sudden you have a horrible, shocking, disturbing diagnosis? And you're just appalled because you can't believe your ears, and you're kind of trying to make sense that after the doctor says, blah, you don't really hear a whole lot after that because you're like, did he just or did she just say something? Well, before we get started, I want you to pretend and make believe that you are in the land of Oz and you have this terrible witch that's in front of you and is spewing all this negative stuff at you, and you are going, can this really be happening? And then there is your fairy godmother standing with a magic wand, and she's like, oh, don't worry, everything is going to be okay. Ignore that and come over here. And you get this big velvety warm hug from your fairy godmother. My friends and gems, that's exactly what I am sharing with you here today. Across the other side of the planet, I have my beautiful dear friend and gem, Noeline Levinson, and she is a brain profiler. As you may or may not be aware, there's only a sprinkle of them. I believe there's only 2 or 3 in New Zealand, and I could only find 1 or 2 others here in the United States. There aren't very many on the planet, but she happens to not just be a brain profiler. She is a health and wellness coach, so that she will guide you through the chaos, the maze, the distortion of the difficult predicament that you've been presented with, which is not permanent. We are here to tell you the good news is that it's not permanent. And so you can change it from infinitely worse to infinitely better. So my beautiful friend and gem, thank you, Noeline, for joining us today.
Oh, such a pleasure. Love being with you.
So please share with us how it is that you are, for those of you who don't know Noeline, and this is your first introduction, I encourage you to look back in our YouTube channel because we did do an episode previously and you'll learn a little bit more. Today, we are going to focus on what's in it for you, what's in it for me, WIFM. And she is an amazing guide and navigator and educator. And so, Noeline, will you share with us maybe some of the stories of body and mind transformation that you've helped navigate people out of a really terrible, difficult situation, and then move them into a much better place in a really relatively short period of time?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. So a couple of weeks ago, I got a phone call. A lady's got 4th stage cancer and desperately needed help. And I'm just going to interject my own self here, is I prefer people not to be, having that diagnosis before they knock on my door, because prevention is better than cure. And so I would much rather be educating people before they get to that horrible place. But unfortunately, human beings need a little bit of pain to push them into looking for an alternative. And she had already gone down the medical route. And unfortunately, she was still in the same place and not progressing. And so we had a consultation, and my job is really to guide people through how do we get from that pH balance of acid in the body to a more alkaline environment, because of course we know that these illnesses can be affected by our pH balance in the body. And so it's really, really an education. And so that's why I'm a health and wellness educator, because it's really an important thing to learn. And more importantly than that, it is so important to have somebody hold your hand, to be accountable to them, because otherwise it is so overwhelming. I've got to change the water I drink. I've got to change the food I eat. I've now got to partake in some different kinds of supplements and the light patches. And it becomes so overwhelming that people just go, oh, no, it's fine. No, I'll do it another way. Just give me a pill to take this away. And so it really is important that somebody is there to hold your hand and guide you through this little by little. And so we changed her food and we changed the water. And she was really determined, obviously, because she's motivated. She's facing a wall. And It's 3 weeks ago, and by goodness, has this woman changed? She is in no more pain. She has energy. She's feeling happy. We obviously saw other things going on. Her house was giving her problems with mold, which was not helping the problem, because of course that ups your estrogen, which doesn't do well in the terms of cancer. We know this. So we had to address a whole lot of things. So she's been running a dehumidifier. She's now selling her house. We're doing a whole lot of things. It is a huge change, but that's what it takes to make that 180-degree turnaround, is that kind of change. But she knows that she's got me on the other end of the line, and she knows that I'm with her every step of the way. And so now we're onto the light patches, and her friend is helping her. She's on the light patches and came to see me yesterday and went, you know what? I'm suddenly don't have any pain. I don't have pain in my wrists and my hip. And she's only been on the patches a few days. And she's like, is this even possible? And I'm like, yeah, it's totally possible. So it's an education. I've changed her water because she saw what was happening to her friend. And she thought, whoa, I don't want to go down that road. So let me do some of these changes too. And so slowly but surely, it's a snowball effect, but it's a wraparound service. It's a service that is there to help guide people through. And then another client came to me, she's got depression. And depression is one of the most difficult things to treat because people don't have the motivation to make these incredibly huge changes. Yeah. Sorry, Lillian, you want to
Yeah,
say?
no, it's fine. And so the thing with depression is we always think that it's always mental, and we always think it's psychological, and we always think that it's probably some sort of emotional trauma that someone is suffering. And that's not always necessarily the case. I remember you sharing with me at one time, you shared about how you had a young woman who had come to you and they wanted to institutionalize this young woman. And will you share that story? Because I think that's very poignant. And I think that if that helps just one viewer not go down the wrong road, sometimes even out of her control, would you share that story with our viewers?
Absolutely. Happy to do that, because that young woman was suffering from having too much estrogen, too many xenoestrogens in her system, because her thyroid was out of whack due to radiation poisoning as well as mold in her house. And both of these things send your endocrine system up the wazoo. And what she was doing is she was self-harming. She was losing her temper in a way that there was a part of her that realized that she shouldn't be doing this, but she couldn't stop it, which is exactly how people with road rage experience that. And we know that is xenoestrogen driven as well.
Absolutely.
So it's that premenstrual experience when you just can't control that temper. And so, of course, she lost her partner because he couldn't cope with her. And that whole experience sent her into a decline.
More depression.
It was sort of one train smash after the other. But because I knew what it was that I was looking at, I could say, hang on a moment, whoa, let's stop the bus. Hang on, we have to take care of your thyroid. We need to take care of radiation. We need to take care of mold. And in a few short days, she bought herself a grounding mat. She had gotten somebody in to remediate the mold. She was already so much calmer. I'd put her on some balancing stuff, and we got her on the patches. And within a few short weeks, she came to me and I thought, oh my goodness, what am I going to see here? And she was so calm, she could actually say, okay, I've now decided to go home to my mother. So I need to heal, and I need to go back to a place where I've got the support, where I've got the clean food and the water and the things that I need to heal. I was so incredibly grateful, because when I met her, she was spiraling out of control. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's probably quite a few people that are in mental institutions that really don't need to be in mental institutions, but they need to be assessed properly, and their thyroid needs to be checked, and their diet needs to be checked, and their environment needs to be checked, and certain adjustments need to be made so that that person doesn't have that biochemical reaction that's presenting as a depression, which is very depressing, because it's like it's like literally like you're being flushed down the toilet. And so I think that's why it's so important to bring you here, to bring awareness to people. If you feel like you're sucking wind, like you're, nothing is going right for you, and you just feel very down and out, know that that depression may not just be bad luck. It may not just be mental illness or something traumatic. There's a high probability we all have trauma. No one gets off this planet scot-free. But first of all, there is help for you. And there are people that are equipped like Noeline. Noeline is one of the few experts that I have that has the skill set so comprehensive that includes the brain profiling, that includes holistically looking at your environment and effectively guiding you to a better place so that you can turn the other cheek. I know we don't have much longer here, but is there anything else that you want to let people know before we wrap this up?
Well, I was giving a speech yesterday, and I said to everybody, one of my clients said many years ago, you choose your death and work towards it. Give some consideration to what are you doing to yourself? And just a couple of days ago, I saw that tin cans, aluminium cans, have plastic lining, and that is causing a lot of xenoestrogens to go into the body. So a lot of stuff is hidden from us. We
We're just
need
not aware.
somebody on the inside. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that change is so frightening for us. I remember when we couldn't leave South Africa and we were surrounded by crime, that we would justify why we weren't, why we were okay with it. We made it okay to live in that
rationalize.
We rationalized it, absolutely. And so, because we knew that we couldn't get out. And so we had to find a way to make it okay to live behind those fences and walls and gates. And I know how frightening it is to not be able to make that change. And so I'm saying to people, I understand the fear. Let's do it anyway. Before it's too late, let's do something together. And I'm there to hold your hand. I know it's frightening. I know it's overwhelming. We do it little bit by little bit, just like you would eat an elephant, small bites at a time. Just let's do this. Let's get on. And the other thing, Lillian, I desperately want to say is that convenience has become very inconvenient.
Mm-hmm.
We do things for convenience. Processed food is very convenient, but the illness that it causes is not. Drugging our children with Ritalin to make them calm and quiet actually is not going to be convenient in the long run.
No.
So we need to be not so convenienced. We need to step outside and take responsibility for our health and get on with this.
We are, as free will beings, we receive the benefits and the consequences of the choices that we make and that we don't make. And so it's important to be aware of the choices, because you can make a choice by omission, by not doing anything at all. Like you were saying, when you were in South Africa, clearly you were in harm's way with a lot of crime around you, and you were trying to not just justify, but rationalize why it was okay to stay there just for fear of not going to someplace new that was much safer. And I've told people for years now that when you rationalize, you're rationing a portion of lies, and then you're feeding them back to yourself. And that's what rationalizing is. It's not good for you, and it's really not good for anybody else around you, but it's what we do to cope with a situation that's unwanted. And when we realize and recognize that change doesn't have to have a negative connotation. Hey, look, Christmas, every year we have Christmas that comes around, and we're surprised with things that we didn't have in our experience before. And those are pleasant new changes, pleasant new surprises, right? So we can anchor a positive feeling to change. Change doesn't have to be scary. And even the most proficient athletes in the world, the most proficient experts in the world, they could be from not so affluent to extremely affluent, but those who are succeeding and moving forward and growing are those who have a guide, who have a coach, someone who has a little more understanding and knowing and skill sets that they can help you navigate this myriad, this chaos, this maze of the unknown, and say, listen, it's okay. Just like your fairy godmother would say, come over here. I'm a big warm blanket for you. Let me give you a big hug. You're going to be safe. Let's just do baby steps. Let's move forward in this direction and get you away from danger and closer towards safety and security and things that are more pleasant and good for you.
Yeah. It's really about taking responsibility and creating, putting your own health on a higher priority.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because without that, you don't have the house and the boat and the batch. You
Yeah,
need
you
it.
don't, yeah, and and everybody does need that. So if people wanted to get in touch with you, Noeline, where's the best place for them to reach you?
Okay, email is wonderful. info@alternativehealthsolutions.co.nz.
Okay.
Should I say it again? info@alternativehealthsolutions.co.nz.
And do you suggest that they also reach out to you through Facebook on your Facebook?
Facebook is also perfect, and I am on Facebook, Alternative Health Solutions. I think it's New Zealand Health Treatments.
We'll put
You
the
can find
link
me
in the
through Nolene
description.
Levinson as well. Yeah, Nolene Levinson will take you there eventually.
Fantastic. And so that you guys know, Noeline works with people in 82 different countries around the globe. She is international. I'll be seeing her in 2025 in March. I'm really looking forward to that. And so thank you for tuning in, tapping in, and turning on to this episode of Love and Money Secrets TV. Do us a big one. Do us a favor and like this video, because that tells YouTube that this content should be shared with others. Make sure you hit that notification bell so that every time we put new content, you're notified. And you might want to even save this to your playlist to either favorites or health tips that you can come back and revisit and then share this with a friend. Noeline, thank you again for sharing of yourself. And I can't wait to have you back. We'll continue to talk about these different topics that are so incredibly important for people like you with families like yours. All right. Ciao for now, my friend and Jem.
Ciao.